Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, we continue our interview with Governor Robert Bentley. And also the V-Team takes a look at the smears against Paul DeMarco. And Senator Bryan Taylor wants to be the new ethics chief.
Good afternoon, this is the Barrel Gang. Now, if everybody will just take it easy, nobody will get hurt.
That's like asking Bonnie and Clyde to be bank examiners. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and every Sunday I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is one of the few times Jack and I have been on here together.
It is.
True. That's true. Well, we try to keep y'all separate. You know?
Right.
I mean, there's any number of bad things.
Well, I am on the right if you look at it this way.
Well, you are. When she's on the left, where she should be.
Appropriately.
Not to the audience. But.
Speaking of right and left, this week, huge case in the Supreme Court, a Hobby Lobby decision, no contraceptives if you have a religious disagreement with it.
No, that is not the holding.
That's
so
not
let's be very particular
Well,
about this. There's a
it
lot
is.
of confusion about that. The Hobby Lobby decision, first of all, only applies to closely held corporations,
Right.
number one. And number two, it does not address all forms of contraception. So the most popular forms, the pill, those other things that we don't need to talk about on Sunday morning at 11, it's only Plan B and IUDs that were the objection by Hobby Lobby, because those are considered by them and some others to be abortifacient, and that was their objection to it. So it does not apply to the pill.
Okay.
So contrary to popular belief, the world is not ending.
No,
The sky's
it's
not falling.
Well, the thing that I found curious was that Viagra is now covered under Obamacare. I guess that's
because of who wrote the law.
Yeah. Well,
folks that look like me did not write the
the
law.
law. So
the problem, though, that I foresee for employers, particularly Jackson, they're just
Well,
going,
you're
I
saying
don't know
too many
what to
jokes
say.
on this. Double on tongue guard.
It's killing them, letting them all go by.
well, I mean,
I hope to never step into a Hobby Lobby myself.
well, I mean, it is kind of hypocritical. You won't give a woman the right to have a contraceptive, but every man can have Viagra.
Well, again, that's not it either. This isn't.
Well, you need contraception if you have Viagra.
Oh, I knew it was going to go
There
there.
you go.
Go ahead, Barrett.
This
Make a
isn't
point.
contraception. It's not interfering. You know, you read these things on Twitter, Facebook, the news, the comments in the news sections. Oh, the Hobby Lobby doesn't want women to have contraception. Look, women can have any contraception they want. Hobby Lobby doesn't have to pay for very limited versions of those.
Right.
I mean, they're not stopping their employees from doing anything.
The problem, though, that I foresee as a lawyer who represents employers and occasionally employees is that now you're going to have potential job applicants having a very difficult discussion with their employers because you know, well, what do you cover? Well, if I need it for this, can I get it? You know, can I get it covered as opposed to for that? What is the religious beliefs of your corporation? Because that's the kicker. I mean, before this decision, houses of worship and nonprofit organizations that were affiliated with religious groups were exempted from it. This applies to for-profit corporations. I mean, if you walked into a Hobby Lobby, would you know that the Green family are Christians from Oklahoma?
Not unless you read the book, which is right there on display in Hobby Lobby. Well, it's an interesting decision. Everybody in Alabama seemed to be really pleased. At least the politicians seem very happy about it.
Yeah, even Bill Armistead issued a statement.
Well, Bill will issue a statement on any policy at any time if it serves him well.
And biting emails, too.
Oh, yes, yes. Oh, yes.
Buying education in Alabama, we've got a number of outside groups that have put hundreds of thousands of dollars into Alabama to try to promote vouchers, charter schools, and more scholarship granting organizations. Barron, we usually resist outsiders, but this time we're welcoming them.
We do.
When they carry bags of money, why would we
Well, and
object?
that's the problem. There's a $6 to $8 billion pot of money every year sitting there that there are certain people who just can't stand the fact that they don't have any of it.
Right.
And that it might go towards public uses. They can't stand that. They want to get it diverted into their pocket somehow.
So carpetbagging's good.
As long as what's in the carpet bag is cash.
Is cash. Well, you know, Riley, he's done well with this, $5 million so far off his little SGO. But it's interesting that you have San Francisco billionaires putting money into Alabama. I think that's strange, don't you?
Yes, definitely.
Well, this American Federation for Children PAC or whatever, there were only 2 or 3 donors to it. They each gave $50,000 or $100,000. They went in and were promoting one very limited view of education reform.
And I don't think it was a philanthropic gift.
No, it wasn't. I mean,
it was an investment.
I think these people who are pushing this ought to say, we will recuse ourselves from ever participating in this school choice. We won't get any money off of it. We won't run any of the scholarship granting organizations. We won't be siphoning any of that money into our pockets. And then we'll see if they're still interested.
Well, Michelle Rhee's group, Students First, made a huge donation right before the Accountability Act was passed. I mean, and this is just, that's more California money coming into Alabama. Normally, we'd be raising Cain about that. I mean,
but it's all, again, it's who's carrying the carpet bag. The problem, and then I mentioned this several shows ago, is that these scholarship granting organizations are going to be funneling money to schools. These participating non-public schools are primarily religious.
Right.
And so you have money that's being funneled out of the public education into these private schools. It's a workaround because Alabama has never adopted the charter school or the voucher program.
well, I want to change the subject to Bryan Taylor. Senator Bryan Taylor wants to be the head of the Ethics Commission, we're told. How do you feel about that, Sherlana?
I say this, the executive director's position for the Ethics Commission should be party neutral, it should be nonpartisan, that it should not be used, and we talked about this a little bit, the Ethics Commission, I think, historically has been used defensively. I would be concerned about it being used offensively to go after people who are political opponents. I think that if I were on the Ethics Commission, I would be looking for someone who doesn't have these very strong partisan ties. I would be looking for somebody who is like a retired judge, for example, someone who is used to making decisions that don't involve party politics, because that's really what that position is supposed to be about.
But Taylor's very partisan, isn't he?
He is, and historically, if you look at Bryan's extracurricular activities in his law practice and in his private life, he goes out and is stirring up trouble. He goes after the Indians, he goes after alcohol, he goes after this and that. He finds creative ways to attack his opponents. You give this man the keys to the ethics kingdom.
And the subpoena power, because the Ethics Commission has that.
And nobody's safe. Nobody that disagrees with Bryan Taylor would be safe.
The mayor of Millbrook had some strong statements to say. He said, this guy wants to be an Indian hunter. He needs to get some buckskin on and go out.
I personally like Bryan. I really do. And one of the things they're going to try to sell and get him appointed is he was the author of the sweeping ethics reform bill, the same bill that brought unlimited corporate donations, allowing somebody to raise money during a legislative session, and the creation of dark money foundations. They set up the law, and it came back and bit them because other people did it. But he is not a reformer like he wants everyone to believe he is.
We got to get out of here. That's like the fox guarding the hen house. You're watching The V. We'll be right back.
John, the great goose is gone. The fox is on the town, oh, town, oh, town, oh. John, the great goose is gone, and the fox is on the town, oh.
The V is sponsored by Spot On Strategies Group.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek, Wetumpka. The perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend, the finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek, Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
I make sure to get your kids to school and home safe every day. I am AEA.
I make sure your child receives a healthy meal each day. I am AEA.
Thank you, AEA, for protecting our public schools and our futures. We are AEA.
Welcome back to the Voice of Alabama Politics. We continue today our interview with Governor Robert Bentley. Thank you, Governor Bentley, for considering us again.
Oh, happy to be here.
Mental health has been an issue that we have had problems with, that we have for decades sort of just tucked people away and ignored what was going on there. You've addressed this situation head on. Can you tell us a little bit about why you did it and how you've accomplished this?
Well, as a physician for years in Tuscaloosa, having seen many of those patients, and also as a legislator, I realized that we really did have a problem with the treatment of the mentally ill and those who have intellectual disabilities. And so we needed to get them out into community settings where they get the best care rather than being institutionalized. And so we've closed down some institutions. We closed down Partlow, and we've closed down 2 other mental hospitals across the state. We've built a new modern facility there in Tuscaloosa at Bryce. And so that's what we've been doing. We are the model. We are really the model for the entire country. The rest of the country looks at us and says, this is the way it should be done. And I'm very proud of our commissioners, what they have done. I'm very proud of all the people who work in mental health. And it's an illness. Mental illness truly is an illness, and we need to treat it that way. And those who have intellectual disabilities, we need to help them also, because everyone has worth.
Well, I certainly agree with you on that. One of the things that you tried to get accomplished during last legislative session was to get a 2% raise for our educators. That didn't happen. If you were reelected, would you push again for a raise for our educators?
I will, and that will be one of the things that we'll be pushing for in this next legislative session. We'll have to look at the numbers, of course. We'll have to look to see how much money we have available. But, you know, the teachers have been cut on a regular basis. They help actually what we had to do with our state employees and our teachers. It helped us to balance the budget and to get through these difficult times. But now it's time to reward them for all the sacrifices that they have given. Look, there is nothing more important to a child and their education. Nothing is more important, other than the parents and that classroom teacher. All these programs that we have, they're all important. All of this is important, but nothing is more important than the classroom teacher.
We live on a road where it's mostly all teachers, and many of them are members of the Alabama Education Association, and they're all Republican.
Right.
And they all voted for you. The teachers' organization has been somewhat demonized, but you've really you've risen above all the partisanship that is out there and tried to help with all the teachers. But do you feel there's been some blowback against teachers that should not have just because of the organization?
I really do. Look, I support our teachers. I support our teachers, our lunchroom workers, our bus drivers. I appreciate what they do for our children every day. It's a hard job. They do a great job. It's a calling. I mean, you wouldn't be a teacher if you didn't feel called to do this, and they love their work. And you know what? We shouldn't blame them for problems in society. They're not the pastor and the parent, and even though they have to be for some of these children. But I want to say that I appreciate our teachers and what they do every day.
You are a man of faith, and a lot of what you do is guided by your sacred beliefs. Could you share with us how that motivates you on a personal level?
Well, I believe that all my life, I believe that I've been placed in certain positions, whether it was being a doctor, whether it was being governor. I believe that God has a purpose for my life. I mean, I've always felt that way, and that has not changed. I have very strong beliefs that we're put here for a reason, and we're put here for a purpose, and we need to find that purpose, and I think I have found my purpose.
You said just a few seconds ago that every life has value.
Yes.
We are facing several challenges on our right to life cases. Could you share with us how you feel about those things? And just, I know this is an intimate subject, but as a physician, you must know the anguish that a mother and a father go through in making decisions. I know you're pro-life. Could you give us a little minute or two on that, or just a second or two?
First, let me say this. I think that any mother who makes a decision one way or the other, it is a very difficult decision. I understand that. There's not anyone out there, though, that can fight for that child. I mean, it is a human being. And we have to always remember that is a human being. That child actually does not belong to someone else. It's not a part of someone's body. It is a human being that has been created by God, and we have to always remember that.
We believe certainly that you will be reelected. Your popularity is probably greater than any of your predecessors. If you get to serve 8 years as governor, what do you hope to be your legacy having served the state of Alabama?
I want people to always remember one thing, that I loved them. I love the people of this state. And I want to be, no one wants to be number 2 or number 3. I would hate to say that somebody said, you know, he's the 3rd best governor we ever had. I want to be the best governor. Now, I'm not saying that in an egotistical way, but I strive to do the best for the people of this state. Because when you serve the people are going to remember you. And they're going to love you, and I'm going to love them, and I do.
In times of crisis, you have certainly been a comfort, and you've traveled the state. What do you think is some of the things you've learned about Alabamians as you traveled the state in times of crisis?
Well, I learned really not something that I didn't already know. I already knew what kind of people we had in this state. And when you are placed in a time of crisis, like the greatest natural disaster that's ever hit this state in the tornadoes of 2011, but other things also, I mean, whether it's ice storms or whatever it may be, people look after each other, and they care for each other. And Alabamians just are caring, loving people. And that's why I love Alabama. That's why I love the people of this state, because we do love each other, and we're going to take care of each other. Whether we had a federal government or not, whether we had a penny from the federal government, it wouldn't have mattered, because we still were going to take care of each other.
You have a big family, a strong wife. Could you tell us a little bit how she has helped you to be the man you are and the governor that you've become?
Well, you know, Di and I have been married a long time. And we have a long, strong marriage, and we've got a great family. Now, being governor is difficult. It's difficult on the family because, I mean, it puts you in a spotlight. You no longer have your own privacy. You don't have security guards around you all the time. You don't get to drive anymore, and she doesn't either. And so it's difficult, but it's so rewarding what I get to do every day, and that serve the people of this state, and she enjoys it also.
We want to thank you for your service and wish you all the best in everything that you do.
Thank you, Ben.
Our guest today has been Governor Robert Bentley. You're watching The V. We'll be right back.
The V is sponsored by MediaWorks Communications Video Production Services for all your video production needs.
Welcome to Alabama's newest entertainment destination, Wind Creek, Wetumpka, the perfect escape for date night, a getaway with your friends, or a relaxing poolside cocktail. Whether it's a day trip to enjoy the best steak in Alabama or a romantic weekend. The finest Southern hospitality is just a short drive away. Wind Creek, Wetumpka. Find your winning moment.
I teach. I touch the future. I am AEA.
I keep the school clean every day for your children. I am AEA.
Congratulations on your scholarship. I help children make choices for college and careers. I am AEA.
We are AEA.
Welcome back to the V. Governor Bentley did such a great job, and it was such a pleasure to have him on 2 weeks in a row. I mean, he's just gonna win this next race.
He should, hands down.
Yeah. I mean, I think
he's a calm voice in a sea of inhumanity.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of craziness out there, but it's just interesting to sit with him. You know, he's a very kind person, very caring person.
Speaking of, y'all like my Uncle Sam and Mrs. Sam's statues that we bought in for 4th of July. I'm sure everybody's had a long weekend of whether it's...
Where did you come from? You weren't there a minute ago.
I know.
Kind of like what hump?
We've been playing musical chairs these last few weeks, and now we've really switched it all around. You know, the ethics commissioner, Jim Sumner, is taking an early retirement. He did an interview with Inside Alabama Politics in which he said, among other things, that there had never been an ethics complaint against Mike Hubbard.
Really?
What do you say to that, Jack?
Well, I'm looking at it right here. I don't know how he missed it. Maybe when he retires, he can go to work for the School for the Deaf and Blind, because here it is.
And how many pages is that?
It's like, I can't
it's
count that high. I went to
pages.
public school. I can't count that high. No.
It's a 204-page document that goes through Mike Hubbard's career, and he said it didn't exist. When was that published?
I think December 2013.
Yeah.
Well, maybe he's sick or something. I don't know. I mean,
well, obviously, he's made several statements in there, didn't he?
There were, you could really piece the words. I read that very carefully multiple times in the Inside Alabama Politics. You could really piece the words, and if you mangled them just so, you might end up with some seed of truth there, but it seemed awfully deceptive.
Yeah, I think so. You know, and Bryan Taylor wants that job. You had some thoughts on it.
Well, I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's a top job because there's some longevity there and a lot of power. I have heard through the grapevines, a lot of sources, that Jim Perdue, who was a candidate for the Secretary of State and the probate judge down in
Crenshaw County.
Crenshaw County, Laverne, that his name has been floating about.
He'd be a great choice. He's a smart guy. He's sharp. He's honest.
And it goes to your thing. He's not so young that he'll be there for 40 years.
Exactly.
And I think Jim would be the type that would try to keep people from getting in trouble. You know.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They need to end this practice of these letters, where they issue these letters.
Well,
I got pre-clearance from the Ethics Commission, so I'm going to go out and rob a bank. Well, wait a minute. You know, all that does is give you reasonable doubt when you get in front of a jury for committing egregious crimes.
Right. Well, it's just been a joke, this Ethics Commission, all the way around. And we've got to bring honor and integrity back to ethics in Alabama. I mean, it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, you just don't need to put, you know, if you're perceived so strongly as somebody's, you know, guy, you just need somebody who's middle of the road.
One of the things that came up in the campaign that I think should be addressed, and it's not part of the agenda, but why are elected officials, senators, and state reps allowed to hand out grant checks right before an election? They do it all the time.
Yeah.
And I think it's just buying votes. I think
well, that's part of the incumbency. That's
well,
just,
I know,
you
but the ethics, that ought to be a bill filed that deals with that issue.
You know,
well, maybe, you know, 60 or 90 days prior to election, or at least 30 or something.
Amazingly, I saw Senator Phil Williams, who should get demolished by Larry Means. He doesn't get out in his district at all in Etowah County, up where we live. He was handing out checks like they were candy to kids. I mean,
well, that's part of the
was just
incumbency
disgusting.
program.
Well, you know, there's a lot of slimy stuff going on in politics. One of the slimiest things I've seen lately is this attack on Paul DeMarco by AL.com, by a radio comedian, and by some other folks that say that his ad against Gary Palmer was inaccurate. It was not inaccurate.
Well,
was it?
it wasn't. And I listened to that shock jock up in Birmingham you were talking about.
Radio comedian.
Radio comedian, whatever you want to call him, who used to be in Montgomery, and I used to listen to him religiously in Montgomery. He took a quote that DeMarco used against Palmer, where Palmer said, you know, I do favor higher taxes of some sort, just not the Amendment 1 variety back in 2002, 2000, or whenever it was. That quote is not taken out of context. The man said he favored higher taxes. And there is a coordinated media effort. And this is what happens when you go against a Bob Riley, Mike Hubbard favorite candidate. It is a coordinated media attack to try to make Paul look petty, silly, small. And I'm telling you, I kind of favored Palmer initially just on the age situation. After seeing what Paul DeMarco's gone through the last few weeks, I'm favoring Paul DeMarco.
Well, even Chuck Dean, who's supposed to be some, you know, veteran reporter at AL.com, jumped on him.
Yeah.
But I think that Barron has made a very valid point, and it's really scary, and here we are in the runoff. And it saddens me, but when you have a former governor who's lined up with the machine, and he's got the speaker and all that they went and did in that race, and they're intimately involved in this congressional race up there, I hope that the people of that congressional seat in the Birmingham, Chilton County, Tuscaloosa, all that whole section in the Birmingham media market, which is 3340 here, I hope that the citizens go out and elect the right person and do what is best as opposed to marching in that.
This is the kind of smear that didn't used to happen.
No, it didn't. But, you know.
But it's money. It's control.
It's all about money.
It's about advertising dollars. There's a coordinated media effort to attack Paul DeMarco because advertising dollars depend on it. You can't convince me otherwise.
Well, I will say Paul DeMarco, from what I can see, has raised more money than any congressional candidate. He's a good, young, bright man, and I think he'll make a great congressman.
Well, he's not going to go up there like Palmer is with his hand out and his wallet, you know, waiting to get bulging.
You know, and speaking of Gary Palmer, let's go back 2 months or 3 months into our show. They really went after John Rice. Where'd your money come from? Where'd your money come from? Who has ever asked Gary Palmer where his money came from? That man was making $140 grand a year. He was controlling something basically largely off of donations. No one ever asked Gary Palmer where his money came from.
He would never disclose it, and he would certainly never share anything. He always said he was Mr. Republican, but would never share his list with anybody.
What bothered me about the Alabama Policy Institute was not that it was Republican politically. It was that it still gets those tax-exempt stuff, and they're partisan as they can be. That just bothers me. You know, we got about 10 seconds. I mean, anything else we need to...
What are you going to say in 10 seconds?
I don't know. I love you, Jack.
I got 38% of the vote.
Did you get
I got 38% of the vote
Disclosure.
when I ran. And,
I'm a 10 now.
And
you are a 10.
I got kicked off.
Bill Armstead said we didn't disclose that on the last show. I lost, Bill, 38%.
And none of us would have run had you not asked us to.
All right, you've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You can catch us every week on the ABC affiliates on Sunday. Check your local listings. Have a great week. Thank you for watching.